Welcome everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over our learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to graph linear inequalities using slope and y-intercept, how to use the correct line and shading for graphs of inequalities, and how to graph multiple linear inequalities on the same plane and find their intersection. How are we learning it? Through the Systems of Linear Inequalities Part 2 notes and the Systems of Linear Inequalities Part 2 assignment. When can we use this information? To determine how many of each kind of product you might need to sell to reach a goal profit. How do you know you learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the Graphing Systems of Linear Inequalities Part 2 assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We will begin by going over our learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Get It Started. Once you've completed your Get It Started, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. After that, we'll go over the Graphing Systems of Linear Inequalities Part 2 notes, and then I'll give you time to complete the Graphing Systems of Linear Inequalities Part 2 assignment on Desmos. Once you've completed the assignment, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. At the end of class, we'll go back over our learning goals and success criteria while you fill out your Before You Go. Your only homework for tonight is to continue working on the Systems of Linear Equations and Inequality Study Guide and any incomplete assignments that you may have. Let's take a look now at the Graphing Systems of Linear Inequalities Part 2 notes. Our notes begin with the learning goals and success criteria. Now let's take a look at how we graph linear inequalities. Let's look at our rules first. So first, we graph the function just like it was an equal sign. So we plot the y-intercept, use the slope to plot the second point. Then we need to decide what kind of line we need to use. So if they add something extra, they add the bar underneath, we add something extra as well and close the line. If they don't add anything extra, just like this, we don't add anything extra either, and we leave it as an open line. Then we need to decide which side to shade. If it's a greater than symbol, we should shade above the line. If it's a less than symbol, we should shade below the line. Well, with inequalities, we're going to graph them the same way. So just like we did before, we're going to plot the y-intercept, which in this case is -2, so I go down 2 and plot that point. Then I use the slope to plot the second point. Well, this is change in y, so we're going up 1 to the right 2. So we go up 1 to the right 2, plot my point, connect the dots, and now I have my line. Now the difference is we're going to shade where the y values are bigger than the line. So I'm going to look at the y-axis here, and I'm going to see where the line crosses, which is here. And I want all the y's that are bigger than that line. Well, they're all up here, so I'm going to shade that area up there above the line. So the shading is a new aspect of graphing that we need to consider. The other part is what kind of line to use. So similar to before where we talked about the open circle versus closed circle, same thing here. Every inequality gets a dotted line or an open line. Notice there, it's open because there's little spaces in between. So every inequality gets an open line or a dotted line. If they add more to the inequality, we do too. Meaning if they add the bar underneath, then we're going to add to it and make it a solid line. So in this case, we have y is less than x. Well, I'm looking if they added anything extra, meaning that, did they add the bar here? If they didn't, which in this case they didn't, we'll leave it as it is and it stays as a dotted line. Now, here's an example of x is greater than or equal to 2. Now, they did add something extra. They added the bar here. So we'll add to it as well, and we'll make this a solid line or a closed line. So how does that apply to our inequalities? Well, when we graph these, we have y is less than 3/2 x. So we're going to plot the y-intercept first. Notice there is none listed here, so our y-intercept is 0. So I'm going to go here to 0 and plot my point. And my slope is 3/2, so I'm going to go up 3 to the right 2. So I go up 3 to the right 2, plot my point, and normally I would just connect the dots. But I need to check to make sure I have the correct line, which in this case, they didn't add anything extra, so I don't either, so it should be a dotted line. So there's my dotted line. Now I just need to shade it. So it says y is smaller than the line. So I'm going to go along my y-axis and find where it meets the line, which is here. And I want all the y's that are smaller. All of those are down here, so I'm going to shade everything on this side of the line. Let's look at another example. We have y is less than or equal to negative x minus 3. So again, I'm going to plot my y-intercept first, which is negative 3. So I go down 3 here. And my slope is just negative x, which really is negative 1. So that's negative 1 over 1. So that means I'm going to go down 1 to the right 1 and plot that point. Again, normally I just connect the dots, but I need to make sure I have the correct line. Well, they did add something extra, so we will too. So we're going to have a solid line. And now we just need to shade the graph. It says y is smaller than the line. So I'm going to go along my y-axis and find where they meet, which is here. And I'm going to look at all the y's that are smaller than the line, which are down here. So I'm going to go ahead and shade this area here. And that's how I graph the linear inequality. There's a video here that shows you how to check your work using Desmos after you've already graphed the linear inequality, so you can check it using Desmos. Let's talk now about how to check our work using Desmos when working with linear inequalities. So we're going to let Desmos graph linear inequalities for us so that we can check that against the work that we've done on our activities. So we're going to go to desmos.com and we're going to click on Graphing Calculator. And now we're going to go ahead and enter the inequality that we want to graph. So let's say it's y. Now to do the inequality symbols, we'll go down here to where it says keypad and click there. And here's all your inequality symbols. So let's say it's greater than or equal to. And then we can put in 3 halves x minus 5. And now it graphed the inequality for us. It shows the type of line right here and the shading. Now if it wasn't or equal to, we can see that it creates a dotted line, so it will create the correct type of line, and it will show the shading of where the shading should occur. So that's how you can use Desmos to check your work when dealing with linear inequalities. Now let's talk about how to graph a system of inequalities. So we're going to graph it just like we did the system of equations. So we're graphing both of them at the same time, and then we're going to find the overlap of the shading. So the first one says y is greater than or equal to negative 2/5 x plus 4. So we'll go ahead and plot our y-intercept first. Our y-intercept is at 4, so we're going to go ahead and plot that point. Our slope is negative 2/5, so we're going to go down 2 to the right 5 and plot our point. And they added something extra, so we will too, so we should have a closed line. And it's greater than, so we should shade above. So there's our first one. Then we'll do our second one. Our second one says y is greater than 5x plus 2. So our y-intercept is 2, so we're going to go ahead and plot that point at 2. And our slope is 5, so we're going to go up 5 to the right 1, right there. They did not add anything extra, so we won't either, so it'll be an open line. And it's greater than, so we'll shade above the line, so we'll shade just like this. And what we should notice is we have a blue area, we have a red area, and then we have this purple area. The purple area is the only area that actually matters. That is the part that is the overlap or the intersection. This is the only part that applies to both inequalities. Let's look at another example. We have y is greater than or equal to negative 2/3 x plus 3, and y is less than 3x minus 1. So we're going to plot the first one. So we'll plot our y-intercept at 3, so right there. And our slope is negative 2/3, so we'll go down 2 to the right 3. They added something extra, so we will too, and have a closed line. And it's a greater than symbol, so we're going to shade above. So there's our first one. Now the second one says y is less than 3x minus 1. So we'll go ahead and plot our y-intercept at negative 1. And our slope is 3, so we'll go up 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. They didn't add anything extra, so we won't either. So it'll be an open line. And it's a less than symbol, so we'll shade below. So it'll be here. Again, we have a blue area, we have a red area, and we have a purple area. The purple area is the area that matters. That is the overlap of the two inequalities. Let's look at one more example. We have y is greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 3, and y is less than x. So we'll go ahead and plot the first one. So our y-intercept is at -3. So we'll go ahead and plot our point there. And then our slope is -2. So we'll go down 2 to the right 1 and plot our point. They did add something extra, so we will too. So we'll go ahead and have a closed line. And it's greater than, so we should shade above. So that's over here. So all of that should be blue. Now our second one, y is less than x. So there is no y-intercept, so it's really at 0. And our slope here is really 1. So we'll go up 1 to the right 1, plot our point. They didn't add anything extra, so we won't either. So it'll have an open line. And it's a less than symbol, so we'll shade below. So we shade down here. And we have our blue area, our red area, and our purple area. And the purple area is the intersection of the two inequalities. There's a video here that shows you how to graph systems of linear inequalities in Desmos. So go ahead and watch this video.
Let's talk now about how we can use Desmos to check our work when dealing with systems of linear inequalities. First thing we're going to do is go to desmos.com, which is here, and then we're going to go to where it says Graphing Calculator. I'm going to click on that. And on the left side, I can enter the two inequalities that I want to look at. So let's go ahead and put one in. Y is greater than 1/2 x minus 5. So there's my first one. And then I'm going to put my second one in. Y is less than 3x plus 2. Okay, and now we can see where we have our two lines that are drawn. They're both, in this case, dotted. Okay, but that could change depending on the sign. They're both dotted, and we can see that this area up here is all shaded in red. This area here is all shaded in blue, and this area is shaded in purple. The purple area is the part we care about. This is the overlap of the shading. So all of this area here would represent the solutions to the system of inequalities. So, and we could enter this in with any equations, any inequalities, and it will graph it for us and show us exactly where the solution should occur. So that's how you can use Desmos to check your work when dealing with systems of linear inequalities. Let's talk now about how to sign in to Desmos to complete your work. So what we're going to do is you're going to click on the link to go to the assignment, and it should take you to a page that looks kind of like this. And right here where it says sign in with Google, we're going to click there. And it's going to pop up with our email accounts. You're going to click on your school email account, and it should already have you logged in because you should have already been logged in using Google Classroom. From there, I'm just going to click start the activity, and it will take me into the assignment and allow me to begin. So that's how you will log in to Desmos using Google. Let's take a look now at the Graphing Systems of Linear Inequalities Part 2 assignment. Our assignment begins with the learning goals and success criteria. If we scroll down, there's a link here to take us to the Desmos activity. Go ahead and click on that link. And it should take us to a page that looks like this. We'll go ahead and click Start the Activity. The activity begins with the learning goals and success criteria. We'll go ahead and click Next. And it asks us to graph the system of linear inequalities. It says use the sketch pen to shade only the region that is in common. Use a text box to state what type of line is being used. So for the first one, it says y is less than 1/2 x minus 4. So we're going to go ahead and plot that. So we're going to go here to -4, because that's our y-intercept, and plot our point. And then our slope is 1/2. So we go up 1 to the right 2, right there. And then we're going to use the line tool, which is this one, and we're going to click on the point here and drag it through the other point and do the same thing in the other direction. So right here, we'll click on this point, drag it through the other direction. And now we need to state what kind of line we're using. Well, we can see that they didn't add anything extra, so we won't either. So this is a dotted line. So there's our first one. We'll worry about the shading later. Now for the next one, it says y is greater than or equal to 3x minus 2. So we'll go ahead and plot our y-intercept. We're going to change the color to red now. So we'll go ahead and plot the y-intercept, which is -2. So we're going to go here to -2. And then our slope is 3. So we're going to go up 3 to the right 1. and plot this point. Then we're going to use the line tool to connect them. So we're going to go here and connect and drag through, and do the same thing in the other direction, connect and drag through. And this one, they did add something extra, so we will too. So we're going to say that this is a solid line. So we have dotted and solid. So now we've stated what kind of lines we're using. Now we just need to figure out where to shade. And our shading is going to be purple because it's the overlap of the red and the blue. So we have y is smaller than the blue line. So we're going to be down here. So it's either going to be this area here or this area here. And y is greater than the second line. So we're going to be above this one. So it's got to be this region here. So we're going to go ahead and use our pen tool and just shade this region here. So it doesn't have to be all the way filled in, just something that shows where it's shaded. And we'll do that for each of these. So we'll continue to answer the questions until we get to the end. Once we've completed the activity, we'll go back to our Google form and click Next. This will take you to your Before You Go. Go ahead and fill out your Before You Go and then submit your work on Google Classroom.